What's your assessment for these big countries in Latin America?
We are now in a transition of lower growth, and this means that countries will have to do a lot of what China is doing.
I know China joined IDB back in 2009. What has been some of the cooperation?
We have a co-financing line of $2 billion we're working on, and also in helping Chinese companies who want to bid in projects that we finance.
随着习近平主席在去年和今年2次出访拉美7国，中拉经贸关系正在打下越来越坚实的基础。泛美开发银行作为中拉合作的重要桥梁，在9月中旬于长沙举行了中拉企业家高峰会。我们在夏季达沃斯期间，请到了泛美开发银行行长莫雷诺，让我们来听听他如何看待拉美国家经济转型的大势，以及中国和拉美的交集。
拉丁美洲泛指美国以南的美洲大陆，以发展中国家为主，拥有丰富的石油、矿产等自然资源。截至2012年底，中拉双边贸易额达到2500亿美元。拉美也是中国对外投资第2大地区。今年7月，中国国家主席习近平出访古巴、阿根廷、委内瑞拉和巴西4国，签署了一系列商贸条约，并设下了未来10年令双边贸易额达到5000亿美元的宏图。
President Xi visited Latin America earlier this year and also last year. What do you observe of him through this visit and last?
Well, the first thing I observe is that he has a good time in Latin America. He likes Latin America. And I celebrate the fact that because of his visit, his very first international visit outside of China was actually to Latin America. Costa Rica, Mexico, and Trinidad and Tobago last year, and as you mentioned this year, to Cuba, to Argentina, Venezuela, and of course Brazil for the BRICS summit. And there in Brazil, in the margins of the BRICS summit, all of the presidents of South America came and met with him. So I think this relationship between Latin America and China should continue to evolve into a stronger trade and investment relationship. But more importantly, a people-to-people relationship.
You said this is a very good time to visit Latin America, but right now we know Brazil had a very tough second quarter. Argentina had its default again. What's your assessment for these big countries in Latin America?
And over the last 10 years, there was a huge social transformation that took place in Latin America. About 10% of the total Latin American population not only moved out of poverty but into the middle classes. In fact, today, more than 50% of the Latin American population is in the middle classes. So we are now in a transition of lower growth. This year, Latin American economies will grow at about 2%. And this means that countries will have to do a lot of what China is doing. What is it that China is doing at this moment of lower growth? Structural reforms. And those structural reforms have to be bottom-up, and they have to be top-down. This is the big challenge that we're in. Each country will have a different set of structural reforms that it has to take on. But I'm, in the medium term, I'm optimistic, and I'm optimistic of seeing that Latin America as a whole is becoming more global.
I'm not sure whether Argentina or Brazil is doing a lot of reform, but one country is doing it is Mexico. What do you think of its approach and its eventual prospect?
Mexico definitely, unlike any other country today, has undergone, under President Peña Nieto's leadership, a tremendous amount of structural reforms, many reforms that Mexico had not done in many, many years. I am very optimistic of the midterm outlook for Mexico in areas like energy, where there is clear evidence that there is a lot of natural gas, for instance, in North America. And I don't believe that that gas stops because the border of U.S. and Mexico. On the contrary, there should be more gas on the Mexico side. There should be more oil on the Gulf of Mexico on the Mexican side. And the fact that Mexico has opened up this sector is bringing a big boom of investment. And we will see the consequences of that in the years ahead. Many times what we know is that structural reforms, once they are done, they take some years to really produce effects.
Will there be a divergence of growth with these two sets of countries?
Well, I think it's important to understand the following. South America is more kind of aligned today with the business cycle in Asia and especially Chinese. This is not true for the Caribbean and Central America and of course Mexico, which are more aligned with the US economy and North America. So that is an important difference. When the Chinese economy was growing at a much faster rate, we saw bigger rates of growth in South America. Now that China and Asia have come down a bit, you see the effects on South America, and now that the US, on the other hand, is growing faster, you also see the effects in the Caribbean, Central America, and Mexico.
One sign of this interconnectedness is the establishment of the new development bank by the BRIC countries. What would you say its role in the near future compared to World Bank, ADB, or even Inter-American Development Bank?
There is a huge financing need for all our countries to finance the development needs that exist.
Yeah.
If you were to add, as you just mentioned, say the World Bank and the IDB together, we're providing maybe at best in some of the larger countries, maybe 10–15% of the total financing needs. We shouldn't provide much more than that. So the fact that the BRICS Bank is there, welcome. And I think once it's established, we'll look at ways to cooperate together like we have done with other regional development banks in the region, either in Central America, the Caribbean, or the Andean countries.
泛美开发银行成立于1959年，是世界上成立最早和最大的区域性多边开发银行，由美国、巴西等28个美洲成员和韩国、英国等19个区域外成员组成，对拉丁美洲的经济社会发展提供资金和技术援助。2008年全球金融危机后，美洲开发银行迫切希望中国加入，以应对危机。中国于2009年正式成为美洲开发银行第48个会员。
So between China and IDB, I know China joined IDB back in 2009. What has been some of the cooperation, and what is China's role actually in IDB?
Well, we're very happy that China, after many years, joined the IDB. I've had the privilege of, in these past 5 years, of meeting with the leadership of the Chinese government, initially with the then Vice Premier Wang Shijian, now with Mike Kai, which I met 2 days ago, with the leadership of the People's Bank of China, Governor Zhou and Governor Yi and others. And we, through them, and with working with other institutions across the Chinese government, we've done a lot of agreements to begin to help bridge the divide that exists between this big ocean of the Pacific that separates Latin America from China. And one of the areas, of course, is on understanding better our policy dialogues or bridging that divide, but also co-financing lines like we have developed with SAFE. We have a co-financing line of $2 billion. We're working on where the procurement or the purchase, the result of that can be to the benefit of Chinese companies, and that has been advancing very well. So we have a very rich relationship. This week, as you know, we are going to be together with you in Changsha, where we're doing a major event of mid-sized companies that come from Latin America and China. And they come together. It will be 1,500 business people coming together.
For IADB itself, two of the biggest challenge is poverty reduction and infrastructure. We know that Asia did a very good job on poverty reduction, but not quite so in Africa. I'm wondering, how is Latin America doing over the past years?
Well, I think certainly Latin America in the last decade, as I said at the beginning, was able to successfully do a lot of things in the way of improvements in the reduction of poverty, in the social mobility that accompanied that a reduction in poverty of these many people that moved into the middle classes. We still have huge challenges in infrastructure investment. In fact, our infrastructure investment is about a third at best of what China has been doing for the last number of years. And so in the next 20 or 30 years, Latin America is going to have to invest heavily in infrastructure. A good portion of that is going to be related to the tremendous needs for, say, energy and new energy capabilities.
One part of the IADB group, Multilateral Investment Fund, actually cooperated with the U.S. business school to establish some kind of business education to women entrepreneurs. What's the motivation, and what has been the progress so far?
Well, we have precisely that program with a bank in Peru, with Mi Banco is called. And one of the things that we're focusing on there is understanding that women entrepreneurs are very, very important for our development. First of all, women are more likely than men to take risk. They're much more entrepreneurial. And they need, of course, access to finance. But also what we've done with the business school, in this case Thunderbird, was to try to get those students of this university to work closely with those women entrepreneurs to help them learn the kinds of business skills that they need such that they can be much more productive and efficient. Chinese are entrepreneurial in nature, as we are in Latin America.
Let's talk a little about your earlier career. You were actually an executive producer of a TV program, and then later on you went to the public sector to become a minister, and then a diplomat, and finally an international organization executive. How did you make all these changes, and what's the initial motivation of going into journalism?
Well, journalism to me is one of the most fascinating professions there is. I had a lot of fun doing it while I was in media. To me, there is one word that describes a good or not so good journalist, and that is curiosity.
Yes.
Because a journalist who is curious and is curious constantly normally can search for the truth better. And so I learned a lot while being a journalist. And I learned that for societies as a whole, journalism is extremely important.
Yeah, but not many journalists actually can make it to the public sector, especially a minister, and even in a developing countries. How did you make that?
Well, our country, I guess, is very unique, and probably it was a very responsible president that decided to appoint me as Minister of Economic Development. But I had, from my past career, and devoted a lot of time to understanding these issues. And
在采访后，莫雷诺先生告诉我，泛美开发银行正在与阿里巴巴携手，打造一个便利中拉经贸合作的双边互动平台。作为我的一个前同行，莫雷诺先生助推中拉合作的市场化思路值得称道。我相信，如果有越来越多类似莫雷诺先生这样的官员，中拉合作一定能够更上一层楼。